This is a production of WKNO Memphis. Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
My guest today on Sports Files is one of the true legends in sportscasting, Dick Enberg. Simply put, Dick Enberg is one of the absolute best in his field, and his field happens to be my chosen profession, sports broadcasting. While most people pressing 80 years of age have retired and are living out their golden years vacationing or spending time with their grandchildren, Enberg is still going strong as he enters his 5th season as the television voice of the San Diego Padres. During his illustrious career, Enberg has been on the call for 8 Super Bowls and has been behind the mic on countless major sporting events, such as the Rose Bowl, Wimbledon, the Masters, Major League Baseball, and the NBA. He is one of the most decorated sportscasters of his generation and is on nearly every list of the greatest sportscasters of all time. Today, the great Dick Enberg joins me to reflect on his storied career and tell us how the sports world has evolved over the years. That's next on Sports Files. Well, Dick, it's an absolute pleasure having you here and being able to talk to you. I appreciate that.
All right, Greg, thank you.
Let's go back in time, and I was wondering, you did a lot of things in college, and then right out of college, before you ended up coaching baseball, and then you got back into it. When did you really catch the bug, Dick, that you thought this would be a good career to get into sportscasting?
Oh, the first time I did a game. I mean, you taste the blood. I mean, this is terrific stuff. I mean, I grew up memorizing the sports pages all my life. I always dreamed that I'd be the right fielder for the Detroit Tigers, and a guy named Al Kaline was my age. He took over the job. And I said, how could they do that to me? And I went to Central Michigan and walked into a radio station, the only one in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, no TV at the time, and I applied for a $1 custodial job. Roommate, fraternity brother, had the job. He was graduating. That was the highest paid job on or off campus.
Wow.
And I'd worked a summer in a Chrysler plant in Detroit as a custodian, so I knew how to handle the equipment, you know? so I said, I want the job. And this is, gosh, 60 years ago almost. And I can still remember Russ Holcomb was the station manager's name. And he said, you've got a nice voice, Enberg. I'm going to put you over here in this booth, and I'll turn on a tape recorder, and here's a 5-minute news summary and a couple of commercials, and just read them. I said, well, don't I get a chance to look them over first? He said, no, just read them cold. Let's see what you do. And hey, I was a junior at Central. I could read. And I read and left, and 3 weeks later he called me. He said, come on in. You got the job. I said, well, where's the broom closet? And where is it? And, and he said, no, we like your voice. You're going to be our new weekend disc jockey. And my eyes brightened. I said, well, how much does that pay? And he said, $1 an hour.
Same price.
Whether I was sweeping the floor or whether I was on the air. And the good fortune was 3 weeks later, the sports director left the station. And they knew of my love for sports. And suddenly here I am, a junior in college, writing my own nightly radio sportscast, doing both college and 2 high school football and basketball games each week, and a Little League in the summer, and Golden Gloves boxing. So I was getting an education within my education. And when I went to Indiana on a graduate assistantship after, I auditioned for the new IU Sports Network and just happened to be the right guy in the right place. I won that, and so my 4 years at Indiana, I was their announcer. So by the time I got to California to coach and teach at Cal State Northridge, I'd already had some years' experience, and I knew that, you know, down the line maybe that could at least supplement a poor professor's paycheck each month.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting because in Indiana you're doing the games, then you go out to California, but you become an instructor and a baseball coach, and so there was actually that void there of being a broadcaster, and then you picked it back up.
Well, on the weekends, I kept trying to get jobs, summer jobs, and I did, and people got to know that I had some background. And I can remember 1964, Cal State Long Beach was a small college football team. They were going to be pretty good. One of the stations, Channel 11 in Los Angeles, decided to televise 4 of their games. And a good friend of mine said, you know, you did Indiana games. I've heard your tapes. You ought to audition for that. And he was one of the possible announcers that they would have picked, and what a good friend. He said, you
Right.
try out too, and I did get the job. They
Wow.
went undefeated. 2 of the guys made the NFL, and that gave me another tape at least to show around. And they even asked me to do a water polo game. I said, I don't even know how you get the horses in the pool. I don't, what do you mean? But I was able to do a quick study and show them that I could handle that. And then Gene Autry hired me in 1965 as a full-time.
Dick, who was the most fortunate athlete you were able to get for an interview in all your career that you sat down and talked with? Who was the one you say, this one stands out among the rest?
Well, there were a lot of those. The one that I was most nervous about was Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio's in this Oakland A's uniform, which seems so out of place. I mean, here's the great Yankee Clipper. And I was doing not only the play-by-play for the Angels, but a half-hour pregame show, which amounted to 3 interviews, just enough to feed 3 commercial breaks in.
Right.
And so I asked Joe if he would be my guest. So I come on the air from Oakland, and here's Joe DiMaggio next to me, and I'm saying, and the Angels and A's are opening this 3-game series, and we have these guests, and our first guest is the great Joe the woman. I couldn't even say my own name. I staggered. I was so nervous, and finally I got it, and I looked in the camera and said, hey, it's Joe DiMaggio, folks. I mean, please forgive me. So we got through. It was about an 8-minute interview, and when we said goodbye to him and thanked him and went to commercial, he turned to me and he said, was I okay? I said,
wow.
You okay? Did you hear the bumbling this idiot was going through at the introduction?
You can hear the passion in your voice talking about any sport, and you've done everything. But baseball is your love, Dick, right? First and foremost, and now having the chance for a few years now, doing the Padres game and living in San Diego, you must be in heaven.
Well, it's the best announcer game, Greg, baseball. I mean, football is an analyst sport. And the play-by-play man, does the nuts and bolts and time and score, and maybe he gets a story in now and then. But it's the analysts are the stars.
Right.
Basketball, so fast, hardly anyone has. You got a free throw is about the only time you can squeeze in any information. Tennis, you really don't need an announcer. The chair umpire is calling the score and the points. But baseball, because of the pace of the game, there's time for you to reflect upon the game and your knowledge and the history and the humor of baseball and engage your partner. And Tony Gwynn is one of my color analysts, along with Mark Grant, a former pitcher. And it just gives you not only a chance to delve into the, baseball history and numbers and statistics are so much more important than any other sport. We remember them.
Right, right.
And to be able to dig into that and at the same time be an ambassador for your city. I live in a beautiful city, San Diego. I love where I live. And to be able, if a young girl has a beautiful rendition of the national anthem, I'm able to say in the 4th inning, wow, this girl from Poway High School sang the national anthem today. How the student body there, I would know their nickname and give them a little push there. Or, gosh, I went to the Old Globe last night. We saw some theater that was unreal. It's got to be going to New York. If you get a chance, go. So you can, around baseball itself, talk about your city. The TV announcer or the radio announcer here in Memphis for the local baseball team, his voice is on the air more than anyone in Memphis.
Right.
So it is with me in San Diego on television. So I have a chance to bear influence.
I was reading a bit about your first year with the Padres, and there was some flack from fans because they thought you weren't a homer enough. You weren't putting them up on a grandstand. I wanted to ask you about that, what your thought process is when calling a game, whether it be a national game where you don't have an allegiance to either team, or when you're calling a local team when there's more of an allegiance to San Diego. How do you keep it from not going overboard and being Joe Homer, yet keeping the fans happy?
Well, they're the Padres. It's not us, and it's not me. We. It's a delicate issue, Greg. On the networks, you don't care who wins. You hope it's a good game.
Right.
And it doesn't matter when you leave the contest, no matter what the sport, whoever won. You might have thought that Nadal would beat Wawrinka, and you hope Nadal might win 14 because Pete Sampras was there. But Wawrinka wins, you're happy for him. Now you got a new story. But you're right. The first year, the game was tied, and the Padres had the bases loaded, and someone hit a screaming line drive into left center field, and the Dodger outfielder Kemp came racing over and made one of those diving backhanded catches and I gave oh my, what a catch. And I was called in the next day. He said, be nice if you didn't use oh my when a guy beats us. I said, what? I mean, that's
It's a
an oh
great
my
play.
moment. It's a great play. No, use the oh my's for us. Well, okay, I understand. I can be more delicate. Use the home run call. I use touch 'em all for the
Right.
home run. Use that for the Padres, but don't use it for the other team. Just say home run.
Well, this is a great segue to Oh My, and one of your terrific calls. And when you say Oh My, as you mentioned, it's a great moment in sports. I paid homage to you a game in December I did where the Memphis Tigers made one of the most incredible plays up and down the court that I have seen. And I have my own thing, Dick, but all I could think of was oh my, and I shut up and I let that sound tell the story and the pictures tell the story. But I have to ask you, and I'm sure you've answered this question a million times, where did you find it? When did it first start? And then how did you realize that, this is going to be catchy? I'm going to keep doing it.
Well, it happened when I went to Indiana and won that audition to do their games. And I thought, now I'm doing Big Ten sports. I need a punctuation mark. And in the Midwest, you go to any public place and you'll hear that expression often. Oh my! It's an affirmation of, it might be in sorrow. Oh my! Or it might be in excitement. Oh my! What a game the other night! Or little dismay. Do you hear about the Jones boy? Oh my! And it has many functions.
Yes, it does.
And so I tried it in my first Indiana football games, and I was a graduate student, and one of the guys in the dorm after the second or third game said, "Hey, Enberg, oh my!" And I thought, "Hey, that's it. I'll use that. It's natural. It's certainly part of the Midwestern culture." Some of my critics thought I used it too much, but I've never used it dishonestly. It's
Right.
spontaneous. That's a moment that's. If I say "oh my" and you're wandered into the kitchen to get a soda, you ought to run back to see the replay, because I don't just say
Exactly.
it over anything.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's been a nice pal to have over 50 years.
Give me a few seconds on what advice you would give to a young man, young woman who wants to get into the field we're both in.
Right. I think that I mean, if you're passionate about sports, that's a given. If you want to be a sportscaster or a sports writer, I mean, obviously you love it. And I think you probably grew up memorizing numbers as I did.
Yep.
You played your own games in the backyard if you didn't have anyone to play catch with. Or I batted rocks over telephone wires, and I created my own game because on the farm there was nobody next door to play catch with me.
Right.
But when you think about the best sportscasters, at least in my mind, and when I go back through my half century in the profession, all were good writers. Al Michaels, a terrific writer. Keith Jackson, a terrific writer. And on it goes. Bud Collins is a writer. That if you think in terms of every game as let's say a play, a 4-act play. You're doing a football game, it's a 4-act play. In that first act, you have to be able to structure it so that you help your audience to care about the characters in the play. Otherwise, what they do, who matters? Now, I'm thinking on network level. If you're doing local sports, obviously they have their
Right.
want. And then the second act, now the drama starts to unfold. So you build off how you've set up this play. And so now the third quarter, maybe now we find out who created the murder and this mystery, this drama. And by the end of the game, you tie all that back together and going back to your early premise and the characters you've developed. How did they do? How did they do in the play? How did they do together? How did the opponents react to all of it? And hopefully you can button it up. And now you've got a book of 4 chapters or a piece of drama of 4 acts. And I think writing and being able to think like a writer, think about what the little writing I've done, and I've been fortunate, I've won some Emmys for writing at the Olympics and the memories. I always think, how am I going to finish? When we were taught to write, we started with a premise and we wrote to the end. Well, where are you going to go with it? If you know where you're going to finish, then you can work backwards and write to the finish.
Exactly.
And now you got a powerful conclusion to your effort. So but for young people, I mean, every opportunity you have to take an English class that forces you to write, you cannot do enough of that, and it's great preparation for what we do. Because we're writing without looking at it. We're 3 hours on the air.
Without question.
With no erasers. You better be good. The critics are going to hear you.
They will. Terrific words of advice from Dick Enberg. We like to end all our interviews with just quick answers to 5 questions. We call it 5 for the road. Learn a little bit more about whoever we're interviewing.
Do I get some free cough drops for this?
We can get you some free cough drops. Your favorite professional sports team of all time? You can't say the Padres because you're doing their games now.
Favorite professional team? Well, I have to go back to my youth, and I grew up in Michigan, and Detroit Lions. They had Doak Walker was my favorite football player, and they won 3 national championships in the 1950s in my formative years.
Favorite pro athlete? Would it be Doak Walker or somebody else? It could be any sport.
Boy, so many. It's like, who's your favorite child? I mean, Nolan Ryan, I did 4 of his no-hitters, and he was a star with the Angels. We didn't have many good players, but he was very, well, we all know, very special, maybe one of the most dominating pitchers of all time. Will anyone break his strikeout record? I don't think so.
Wow, 4 of the 7 no-hitters. What music do you like? What's your favorite group?
Rachmaninoff. I love classical music.
Okay.
I like, you know, the beautiful romance of Rachmaninoff, but yeah, all the, you know, the greats, Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, but
classical music.
Rachmaninoff. Yeah.
Okay, favorite movie of all time?
Oh boy, sports movie?
It could be anything.
Well, a sports movie would be Field of Dreams.
Okay.
I've seen it 6.5 times. My wife says, "You're not going to cry this time, are you?" I said, "Are you kidding?"
Every time.
Yeah,
right?
It's an automatic.
Dad, you want to have a catch? It's over.
That's father and son. Yeah. Wow. Other movies. I mean, I marvel at what they did in 1939, Wizard of Oz. How that's still a terrific movie. They just did the television version of Sound of Music. You go back to the original. What a fabulous,
absolutely
entertaining movie that was. I mean, you could. As soon as we end the interview, I'll have some really good answers for you.
Okay, we're going to leave it. We talked about the movies. We're going to leave it with TV. What's your favorite TV show?
60 Minutes.
60 Minutes.
For a long time. We kind of schedule our Sunday nights around 60 Minutes. And we just find it thought-provoking and interesting, and being in the business, you know, something you'd like to be a part of. I wish I had some Morley Safer's pieces. I wish I could do those.
You should be a subject to them. Have you ever been on 60 Minutes?
Well, I'm subject to a lot of things, but no, I've not.
Dick, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Greg,
thank you so much. Just scratching the surface
Sorry
with
about
one of the
scratchy throat.
Gosh, I've been there and I've done that. One of the greatest of all times. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick time out. Overtime is next. Here on Sports Files, we aim to both entertain and educate, and we believe we do so. And today we add to our objectives: instruction. Well, not from me per se, but rather from one of the foremost golf instructors in the entire Mid-South, Greg King, the director of golf at Miramichi Golf Course. Today is our first of a series of segments designed to instruct you in the game of golf. From beginners to low handicappers, Greg King will show you how to play good golf made easy.
We're here today at Miramichi's indoor instructional facility. So you've thought about entering the game of golf. This is the first part of a series of good golf made easy. So today, we're going to begin with your base fundamentals: the grip, the stance, and the motion. So here we go. So in beginning with the grip, the first thing you do is just let your arms hang. And you notice how when your arms hang down here just below your pockets, that your hands are turned in towards each other. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a grip where our hands are turned in towards each other. Most people that don't quite have the grip right believe that hands should be opposing, and they actually should hang just like our arms normally, naturally hang. So we're both right-handed golfers. So the most important thing is to begin with your top hand. For us being right-handed golfers, that's going to be your left hand. So what I want to describe here is how to begin with the left hand, the top hand grip. If you'll notice, the grip runs very much close to my fingers, way down here below my wrist bone. When I do that, I just let my fingers meld and I put my thumb on the top of the grip. When I do that, I've got my thumb just about at 12 o'clock running down when the club face is square. You'll notice that this part of my hand right here, what's called a hook of the handmate, it's on the top of the grip. From your perspective, looking at it from the television, you can't see the top of the grip right here. The mistake most commonly made is when people grip it way up here by their wrist, Then when you put the club down, if you can see any part of this grip right here, don't even go to phase 2. Stop right there. Let's get this hand first done correctly. This is so vitally important. So again, when I grip it, I'm going to have this grip almost perpendicular to my hand, slightly at an angle, but much closer to my fingers than to my wrist. So we're going to have it down here. Our top hand is going to feel a lot more lower palm and fingers than a wrist grip. Okay? So now the lower hand, the backhand, which for a right-handed golfer is going to be your right hand. So the easiest way of thinking about it is I want to feel like my right hand palm is exactly where I want that club face to go. I want to feel like my right hand and the club face are one and the same. So when I just extend the club down, I've got my right hand here. And that way I know when I come through and my right hand palm feels like that through the hitting zone, where my right hand is, so is my club face. That's the easiest way to do that. So what we're going to do, regardless of the fact that there's different styles to grip, whether it's 10 finger, whether it's overlap, or whether it's interlock, that's really preference. What matters is, again, the top hand grip, and then your lower hand feeling that it's looking exactly the same place this club face is. So here we go with Greg.
All right, so.
Yep. Really good. Let me check this real quick. Fabulous grip. That's exactly what you've got to get done well firstly. This is the most important thing in beginning golf made easy. So after you've been working on your grip a little bit, the next thing you need to do is to learn how to make an athletic stance, an athletic setup. So real easy here. All we need to do is to get our feet about shoulder width, the middle of our shoelaces about shoulder width. Then what we're going to do is we're going to have just a little bit of knee flex. We're going to push back with our lower stomach muscles, with the tops of our legs, the middle of our pocket, and we're going to push back. The back of my seat pocket right here is going to be behind my heels. So when I stand up here and I let my arms hang where I want to feel, and if right down here in my legs I can feel my balance in my feet. When I make my setup, I want to have the balance points at about the top of my laces, the front of my leg bones. And that encompasses an athletic stance. So let's take a look over here and make sure that Greg's got it perfectly right. Looking at his balance points, he's got his knee flex, really nice. He's pushed back with his lower stomach muscles, real stable in his back. You notice his arms are hanging comfortably from his shoulders, and he seems to be in perfect balance. That's really the key in a great stance, is just establishing an athletic stance and great balance. So let's have a brief discussion about motion. Once you've learned to hold the club, once you've learned to make a stance, the next thing you've got to be able to do is to make motion back and through in balance. Begin in balance, stay in balance, dynamic balance through your motion to your finish. So where we move most in the game of golf is thoracic spine up to cervical spine. I always tell students, let's think about using your sternum, turning back, turning through. One of the things that I've heard for 26 years of teaching, and it's been passed down for generations, is keep your head down, keep your head still. So we'll focus on my head down and still as I make a swing here. You've never seen any player on PGA Tour, LPGA, worth their weight in salt that kept their head still and down. No, not at all. If you look at, pay close attention to my head, as we make a swing here, you're going to see most of the guys on the tour or the LPGA, the ladies players, there's a little rotation, my nose may get a little bit behind it, and then at the finish, if you drop a plumb line, my head is over my front foot. So what I'd like to begin by saying in motion is, let your head move. Wherever my head is, that's where my balance is going to be. So if we want to propel an object with some force and some speed that way, we allow our upper body to flow to our back foot on the backswing, and then we come through the ball to our front foot. So our head moves, and that's one of the things I think is really good to be able to understand. Is one of the great drills is what I call arms cross drill. So if you can stand there and make your stance, and you can make motion back and through to perfect balance, now you got to start at it. Greg, let's see you do it. Excellent balance finish. That's the way. Perfect stance, in balance, swung to your finish. Well done.
Well, thanks, Greg. I understand the balance, but I'm still not sure how far I should be away from the ball at address.
Great question. We're going to be covering the fundamentals of alignment and ball position in the very next series.
Well, that's a great lesson from Greg, and we're extremely happy to have him aboard. Before we say goodnight, we want to send our condolences out to the family and friends of Eddie Cantler. For over 4 decades, Eddie served as the head athletic trainer and athletic administrator at the University of Memphis. He became a beloved figure who was stern but fair. He cared for the athletes, and they cared for him. He was a terrific family man and had an angelic singing voice. In fact, he was in his 12th year as the director of music ministries at Sacred Heart Church. Eddie Cantler passed away in his sleep at the age of 61. And that'll do it for now. We'll see you next time.